Let's talk more about this with somebody who has a vote in this process, and that's the Republican congressman from Nebraska, Congressman Don Bacon. Congressman, appreciate you being here, and let's get right into it. First of all, where are you on this foreign aid package? Can you support all of the different planks? And are you even confident that they can get out of the Rules Committee and to a place where you'd have the opportunity to vote on it?
Well, the first question is easier for me to answer than the second. I do plan on supporting them, but they're not optimal. The Speaker has had a good heart on this. We want to secure the border. We're trying to pressure the president to do more. He's got the authorities already that he could use. But I don't think failing in border security makes it right to also fail Ukraine or fail Israel. And that's sort of the argument right now. If we don't get border security, we can't help out Ukraine or Israel, and both of them are in our national security interest. So I intend on supporting the separate legislation, one for Israel, one for Ukraine, one for Taiwan. I think some of them have a little bit too much humanitarian aid in them, but you can't let perfection be the enemy of good here. In the end, Ukraine, it's in our national security interest that it remain independent, and Israel is our best ally in the Middle East, and they expended lots of munitions trying to protect themselves from 330 projectiles that Iran fired at them last Saturday. So I do intend to support that. Now, your question on the rules, it appears to me that it's going to have to take some collaboration between the Democrat leadership and Republican leadership to get this out of rules. I do know that on the floor, some Democrats already told me they plan on voting yes because they agree with the legislation. So I do see a pathway that this is going to get through. It's unfortunate that we have 20, 30 people that do not want to cooperate with the Speaker, and that effectively makes us a minority. And it actually weakens our hand. But it's going to take some cooperation working with the other side to get this done.
All right, let's talk about the Ukraine bill with a little bit more specificity. 2 weeks ago, you told Kristen Welker on Meet the Press that you didn't want to give the president a blank check. But now some of you and your colleagues are even saying that Biden has not given enough to Ukraine. So which is it? Where's the problem here?
Well, I would prefer more military, just keeping it to military aid and reducing the humanitarian. The EU has done a lot of the humanitarian. They just passed $50 billion or 50 billion euros out of the EU to help out with humanitarian. Now, we did get some wins, and this is wins that I fought for. I want to ensure that the president includes ATACMS weapons to Ukraine. These munitions have a 180-mile range. They can hit a mailbox. Sending Ukraine these ATACMS weapons will be a game changer because the Russians hide behind the lines far enough back where they can't be targeted, and this ATACMS will change that. And so we have this in the bill, and that's what I mean by not giving the president a blank check. We've done billions of dollars, and they've been sending, for the most part, 155 millimeter shells, shoulder-fired anti-tank weapons. Later, after a lot of prodding, they did the Harpoon missiles, which were good, but it should have been done earlier. We've done Patriots. It could have been done a lot earlier. We're still wanting to send F-16s. They're not there yet. So I'm trying to push the president to send more capable weapons that can change the fight on the field.
Okay, let's talk now about the situation that this has left Speaker Johnson in. You've said in the past that you thought he could lose his speakership over Ukraine. Marjorie Taylor Greene has said that she's not going to bring a motion to vacate until after the vote on the foreign aid bill. Do you think that is still likely? And do you think she's got enough willing partners that Johnson could lose his job?
I suspect one or two are going to do this after getting to know how they operate in the last couple of years. I disagree with it totally. It weakens Congress. It weakens our party. It's a boon to the Democrats in November's elections. So I think it's a shameful or just plain wrong. That said, I think the Speaker will survive this because I know a lot of Democrats who think, hey, the Speaker is trying to do what's right for our country, and he should not lose his job over that. So I suspect, unlike a table motion, but if a vacate motion is put in, we'll move to table that motion. And if we win that, it's done. It will be over. With Speaker McCarthy, we tried it and we didn't have the votes for tabling. I think this time, if some of the Democrats vote to table or don't even vote at all, that the Speaker will survive it. But it's a shame that we have to do this. We're not operating as a team. All the norms that I'm used to when I got elected in 2017 have been dissipated. We've never vacated a speaker before. It took, I think it was 18 years before a rule has been voted down on the floor. We've done that 7 or 8 times now. And now we have people campaigning in each other's districts. It's a real shame. We should expect more of ourselves. And 95% of us are doing it right. It's a small group that's really ruining the whole team.
I was in one of the press availabilities with the speaker yesterday, and it struck me how much he's changed his tune as it relates to funding for Ukraine. I'm sure you know that he voted against Ukraine funding before he became speaker. I know you've been a strong supporter of Ukraine funding from the very beginning. What do you think has been the biggest change in the speaker's view of this? Why has he now gone from someone willing to vote against it to someone now championing the idea and potentially putting himself up at the risk of losing his job?
Well, I could talk a whole show on this. I don't know if I can fit it all in a minute or two here. First of all, he was representing Northwest Louisiana. I think it's more conservative. Now he's the Speaker of the House. He's the Speaker for the United States of America. 2, he's always told me he supported Ukraine and that an independent Ukraine is our national security interest. He has shared my views personally, and when he ran for Speaker, made it pretty clear where his heart lies. But I also think now, instead of being, just one conservative of 222, being the Speaker of the House now, it's different. He has to govern, and governing, as defined by James Madison, who wrote the Constitution, it forces us to find consensus and to work together. You can't be a flamethrower or a nihilist or burn the house down kind of mindset and govern. And he is trying to govern, and the Constitution is written to protect the minority. You got to work with the other side. They're in a divided government. And I think he has seen this and learned it, and he's applying it right now. So we're seeing him step up and govern for our country.
Okay. I'd have you stay all the rest of the hour and talk about that, but I know you have another meeting, so I'm going to let you go. Congressman Bacon, thank you so much for your perspective. We appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.